Welcome to Generation Techs Online Module 2. The skills that we will be focused on in Module 2 are empathy, compassion, and trust. And a lot of the times we hear adults and educators say that kids don't have a lot of empathy anymore because of the things that they do to other kids, especially when we look at some online posts. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that, and partly because kids are just not as exposed to empathy anymore as they used to be. I mean, if you look at the curriculum in our language arts, and we're not reading a lot of fiction anymore, we're reading a lot of nonfiction. So we're not talking about the feelings, and we're not getting to address those kinds of things at school. Think about the dinner table. 20 years ago, it wasn't uncommon that people would all sit down together, a whole family, for dinner every night. And now, with sports schedules and the amount of work that kids are expected to do at school, and so many single mothers, is that a lot of the times people are just passing each other in and out after school. And so there's not that family time where people are really talking and connecting. And so that is something that we're really going to show you with the learning activity, is how to have an activity where people get to express empathy. Now, also, we want to talk about compassion. The thing is that you can't act compassionate towards somebody if you don't first feel empathetic towards them. So a lot of that is just going to be practice. And trust is developed, not overnight, not automatically. It's developed over a time period where people are sharing and feeling empathy and acting compassionate towards each other. So there are going to be routines, practices, and learning activities again. And the first thing you're going to hear about is the learning activity, which is called high-low, which your class or your group that you're working with will sit in a circle, and everybody will take turns saying their high, which is the best thing that happened to them that week or something that made them happy, and then they'll share their low, which is the worst thing that happened to them this week, or something that made them upset or sad. And each person will have a turn to go. You don't have to memorize what the person before you said, but you'll have an opportunity to share those things. And the adult who is directing this activity will ask questions, follow-up questions, and say, oh, your dad's going away on a business trip. Do you miss him? Is it hard? Is it hard for your mom without him there? Or, oh, I'm sorry that your grandma's in the hospital. Do you think she'll be getting out soon? And so what we're doing as the leader of this activity is we're role modeling compassion. And you'll find that in this learning activity, you'll be able to also practice Module 1. And so a lot of times if a kid says, oh, well, my high is that I went to Florida over spring break, and then you'll have other kids say, oh, I did that too. And you'll have to stop the activity, address that student, and say, is that respectful to be talking about yourself when someone else is sharing? And slowly, as long as you use it with a question and you don't, you don't make them feel bad about it, they'll start to understand, what it really means to listen to something that somebody's sharing and to feel empathetic and to act compassionate towards them. You'll also have a practice, which is this particular activity of asking somebody their high-low is a great way to identify what's blocking a student from either reaching their potential, maybe being absent a lot, or doing very poorly on their tests, or maybe just not doing the work at all. And we're going to give you examples of how to get with kids one-on-one and try to use this practice to uncover what is blocking them, because you can't help them do better unless you first know what the problem is. So I think you'll really enjoy this activity, and it'll be something that your students will request for years to come. Thanks.